Start recording. Away we go. Wow. Thank you everybody for your incredible patience. I'm Adam Broadway, CTO, co-founder of NearMe. Great pleasure to be able to have you all on this webinar to talk about the 8 best practices to build your successful peer-to-peer marketplace. Whether you're a big brand or an entrepreneur just getting started, I hope you find value in this. I'd like to generate lots of stimulating questions and interaction between you all. We're all in this together. I'm sure that even competitors within marketplaces can cooperate when it comes to peer-to-peer marketing and peer-to-peer marketplaces. So let's think first of all about the overall definition of what a peer-to-peer marketplace is. But before we do, of course, let's just cover off the first little order of business, which is to silence your mobile phones, to grab yourself a comfortable chair and sit back and relax and take a few deep breaths, because I need to do that myself, especially after this false start. And let's go ahead now and just cover off the topics that we want to go over in this session. Firstly, we want to look at how we narrow the focus within our marketplace, how we build up the supply, create a community, produce compelling content, acquire new users creatively, create trust and reputation loops, make transacting convenient, and add value beyond the transaction. Keep people coming back. Keep people coming back to your marketplace. So what is a peer-to-peer marketplace? Well, put simply, it's a marketplace in general is a marketplace that facilitates the exchange of goods and services. And a peer-to-peer marketplace is where individuals can transact with other individuals. Typically, it's maintained by a third party, such as a business. Many entrepreneurs in the room already that are building those types of businesses, a government, or a member-based organization operating through technology. It's a matchmaking service. And in this type of marketplace, peers can act as both providers and participants, offering the goods and services as well as utilizing them. So the supplier can also be part of the demand side. And traditional e-commerce, it's a one-to-many exchange of goods or services, but a peer-to-peer marketplace is the many-to-many exchange of goods or services. And that's where the revolution is happening in traditional e-commerce, where the buyers are becoming the sellers. We're seeing that in sites like Craigslist and others. Looks like my audio might have dropped out. Okay, all good, loud and clear. Thank you, everybody. All right, well, let's go back to where we were talking about again. And that was all around what a definition of a peer-to-peer marketplace was and how traditional e-commerce is changing. We're going from the one-to-many exchange of goods or service to a many-to-many exchange of goods or services. And the value exchange might be monetary, it might be points-based, it might be cryptocurrency, there might be a feel-good factor in the exchange of a value that exists within a marketplace. So they're quickly gaining momentum. They're helping people to utilize time, space, and resources that would otherwise remain idle, and it's also creating trustworthy social connections along the way. Traditional brands are also powering up peer-to-peer marketplaces to close the loop in their products and services life cycle. For example, they're creating certified second-hand marketplaces for their products to be resold, or they're linking their channel partners or experts and their customers together for service matchmaking within a marketplace. All right, so Time Magazine, it's dubbed, let's go ahead and look at that web link. It dubbed that the collaborative economy or collaborative consumption, also known as the sharing economy, social commerce, circular commerce, and collaborative commerce, as one of the top 10 ideas that will change the world. And by the numbers, peer-to-peer marketplaces are already big businesses. Forbes are estimating the rise of the sharing economy. I think we're seeing a change in that language to collaborative consumption or social commerce. The rise of the sharing economy. It's already produced $3.5 billion in economic value just in 2013 within the US, and future projections are up to $110 billion in the US via some research that MIT Sloan have done. So let's look at step one, narrowing the focus with our marketplace. before you can run off to the races, you've got to consider narrowing the focus. And people are looking to, they're looking at for marketplaces to add value. And it's going to appeal to specific groups of people. So that's how you narrow the focus, by appealing to those specific groups of people that you might be an expert or acknowledged expert with. And if you choose a targeted niche community or a single geography to get started, that's going to help a lot, because if your focus is too broad, you're attempting to hit lots of markets at once, you're likely to suffer from a lack of suppliers and fail to create the community that's going to be vital for creating a thriving marketplace. Craigslist, eBay, and other broad-based non-affiliated marketplaces are examples of broad appeal that are a mile wide with choice, but an inch deep in focus. And that's where you'll see the masses. But a narrow-focused marketplace that caters to the needs of a specific community of participants is able to build greater trust and credibility. Now, this is going to help greatly, obviously, by choosing a sustainable market as well. So your product or service or asset that is high value can be frequently traded, producing high value transactions versus high volume transactions of high value goods and services that are usually infrequent in transaction but higher transaction costs. So renting a fully crewed yacht versus a rubber dinghy, an infrequent purchase but's done at a much higher profit margin. That's an example. So sustainability in the market that you choose is important, and you can do that by focusing in on professional equipment such as cameras for filmmakers, or specialized equipment that's scarce in supply, such as maybe a dental surgery rental. That's an example of choosing a market with a high-value product to give you sustainability. Now, so markets of value that we'll move to, are these examples: cars and vehicles, homes and real estate, frequently traded goods, handmade goods, and maybe artisanal food. Services that haven't yet been disrupted, I mentioned dentist surgeries. So dental surgeries, hair salons, physical therapy, high transactional costs, goods that are less traded, professional equipment, hard to find equipment, private member-based organization within a specialized industry, vertical or niche. And then tackle one location at a time. Many assets and services and spaces are tied to a specific location. Cars, boats, desk space, sporting equipment, plumbers in a particular geography, hairstylists and cleaners. So if you're starting a marketplace that relies on the proximity of the peers, the best way to narrow your focus, at least in the beginning, is to start with a specific city or region. And once you capture the local market, you can gradually expand to nearby areas using the formula based on your learnings and momentum that you gain. And stay close to your customers in a high-touch approach, and that's going to ensure that faster learning that you will gain so that you can adjust or validate your business hypothesis, your marketplace hypothesis, and then apply efficiencies to your business model. Now, building up the supply chain. This is vital, of course, as all the steps. And one way that you can build up your supply chain is tapping into your existing networks. Because after narrowing the focus of your marketplace, you need to build that supply. In other words, you need to acquire the inventory that people can buy, sell, rent, swap, or gift inside your marketplace. When you have a strong supply, matches can then be made between the wants and the needs, and people will be motivated to interact. And the best way to build up the supply is to tap into your networks and communities, or act as a domain expert, utilizing your existing connections. And often these specialized marketplaces, suppliers can also be users, accelerating the momentum on the demand side as well. There's a little article that we'll bring up that TechCrunch talked about, and that's a specific quote here, that getting both sides of a transaction at the same place at the same time for the same thing can feel like it's an order of magnitude more difficult than a more traditional one-sided commerce business. So that's just a note to be aware of, and why you want to tap into your existing networks. And be a domain expert. If you're an expert on recreational vehicles and you've been selling RVs for 20 years and are deeply connected to that industry, you'd be the perfect person to start a marketplace for renting out RVs. With your industry contacts, you could even build channel partner relationships and get other people to create local RV rental marketplaces all over the world, where they're seen as the domain expert in a particular geography. And that's going to then generate great business for everybody, with you as like the master franchise connector. Using an existing community like a brand. A brand with a strong following, that's with a large user base or social following, is the perfect place to seed a new marketplace. The collaborative economy, or circular economy, is in many ways, it's the evolution of social media. Many brands have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of users. So what if you could translate those users into more business? For example, IKEA could integrate a furniture building network of peers into their checkout process and close that loop. We've seen that happen with Home Depot. Cisco can provide a certified refurbished router marketplace where only trustworthy channel partners are allowed to supply, and where customers who would otherwise be using non-Cisco marketplaces can now use a trusted branded one. So how can a marketplace help build the business of your brand? And that's the question. Think about using existing communities to tap into and seed the idea, and also starting a community of practice. There's a big difference between communities of interest, which is the hobbyist, and a community of practice, the professional. Think of it like this. A community of practice would include a group of individuals who practice a particular profession, and these are great groups to start a marketplace in because they're already practicing a particular profession in an existing community where trust is already implied by virtue of being part of the same profession. And some examples of those might be the Certified Practicing Accountants Association, or Certified Legal Practitioners Association, fitness trainers, plumbers, builders unions, automotive associations, and government bodies and non-for-profits who are seeking economies of scale, who already have lots of members within their community of practice. Now, starting a marketplace within a community of practice where you already have the expertise and access to a large community, it's going to greatly reduce your time to market and increase the possibility for rapidly expanding your business, because trust, as I said, it's already implied and underpins these communities of practice. Communities of practice and those that are a part of it are always careful to maintain their reputations, and self-moderation happens to remove those who bring disrepute to the collective profession. And another shortcut for building up the supply to your marketplace is setting up a private white-labeled micro-marketplace. If you're the domain expert and have connections, you can create partnerships with other people who have similar networks in different locations. So if you can connect all of these communities together, cross-pollinating, you'll not only have the beginnings of the supply taken care of, but you'll also have the ability to create the demand, because often they're one and the same. The supplier is also the user in a lot of cases, particularly with services and swapping of professional services. And private white labeling within a micro marketplace that you may own. So think of yourself as a master franchise, and then allowing white labeling to take place within your main marketplace can be mutually beneficial, because it increases supply, demand, and your distribution channel partners feel that they have a place that they can call their own, where they're not going to be necessarily directly competed with by others because they have their own white labeled version. So suppliers can then promote their marketplace branded as their own and filtering out supply of competitors as necessary. An example of that is with Desks Near Me, where anybody can list their open desk space But if a space owner wants to have their own micro marketplace, they can apply their own branding and domain name to it, and then when people are searching on that micro marketplace, only their inventory is displayed. So it's a master franchisee model that you can apply to your marketplace. Which brings us to step 3, creating a community. So building a community from the ground up. Communities can be built from the ground up. It's hard. It is the most difficult way to create a marketplace, which is why we suggest being a domain expert and partnering with domain experts, or at least starting a marketplace within a community of practice. But to build from the ground up, you need to locate suppliers, develop relationships with them, champion them, and learn enough about the niche market that you're appealing to in order to support the suppliers within your marketplace. And that's just the beginning. What ultimately is going to fuel the marketplace is people. And people need to be motivated to list their idle possessions, experiences, spaces, services, and goods, and they need to be able to respond to requests. People have to see the benefit in participating and understanding the what's in it for me, the motivation, and the value exchange will help you tailor the marketplace to meet those values and increase the uptake by the community. So, build your supplier community first. The first step in getting your community going is getting the suppliers excited to participate. Once you have a community of suppliers, once you've got the community of suppliers, you can start thinking about other aspects of the business. And I just want to check to see if we've got the audio. It looks like the audio is still good. I just got a little message coming through on my phone. That's what distracted me just now. Looks like we're good on the audio still. Fantastic. So let me just go back to building your supplier community first and reiterate that. It is the first step is getting your community going is getting the suppliers excited, as I've already said. Once you've got the community of suppliers, you can start thinking about other aspects of that business. For example, you can have a launch event and invite participants to join, have a networking event, leading them to eventually transact, and we'll talk more about that later. You must always give your suppliers the support, resources, and guidance that they need to be successful. And also champion your best suppliers. When it comes to finding your initial suppliers, go for quality over quantity. Your initial users need to be passionate, excited and motivated, and that's going to translate into being responsive. So handpick these chosen few and champion them because you'll get a much better return on investment that way. When you champion someone, you're essentially helping them to get the most value out of your marketplace and oftentimes incentivizing them to act in a certain way. So show your suppliers how using your platform will help make their lives and businesses better. Now, at this point, working with your suppliers will be high touch. You'll spend a lot of time with each person understanding what they need. For example, if you're creating a car sharing marketplace, you'll want to understand what motivates people to list their cars, the functionality they think is important, and what they need to be successful in renting out their car. Think about the vertical or niche market that you're focusing on. What is everybody complaining about that you can fix? What's the business process? What's an onerous cost? What's a regulatory nightmare or a supply access that you can solve for them? Now, a solution that can be leveraged across your marketplace, and that's the solution that you want to build in to leverage across your marketplace in a collaborative way. Also, take high-quality photos. One of the things that's been proven time and time again is to make suppliers successful is that the use of quality photos that they post to advertise their products or services needs to be very high. So be specific about how to take high-quality photos and educate your suppliers. If necessary, you can even send somebody out to take the photos. It's a cost, it's a hit initially, but it will pay off. And to retain the overall quality ongoing, you might even have a marketplace of professional photographers that are involved that can go out and do all of the shooting of the supply and producing marketplace content that can make everybody proud. Airbnb offered this to this service to its hosts in the beginning and continues to do so. In fact, that spawned a whole new marketplace opportunity of a marketplace for photographers. And these professional photos speak to the quality of the service, and it helped Airbnb build trust amongst both the hosts and the guests. And as I said, there's a number of crowdsourced photography services that are available, and we have that listed in the white paper. Get suppliers to help other suppliers. Once you've discovered who your most reliable, motivated, and enthusiastic suppliers are, get them together. You don't have to throw a party just yet, but get them in a Facebook group, organize a meetup, or just set up a simple shared Google Doc to share feedback, ideas, and questions. This co-opetition, which is a combination of cooperation and competition, will help them help each other, which will save you time so that you can focus on other things. Running webinars like this, which can be done free. The free webinars can be run through Google Hangouts. We are obviously using a different service, which we oversubscribe to, but we fixed that. It's free and removes the tyranny of distance. And it gives the semblance of human connectedness and real-time reaction. And also one-to-many. Another great way, and people might be shocked that this still happens in this day and age, is a dinner invitation. A dinner invitation to a core group of passionate peers might cost a day's wages, but provides a year's worth of insights. Imagine what you can solve over a dinner party. Now, this is being recorded, and we are going to be sending out the white paper to those that asked the question moments ago. Request feedback, and request it early and often. Don't assume that you know what your users want or need. Ask them. And don't just send out email surveys. Get on the phone. Actually get on the phone and talk to people. Talk to them in person. Seek out feedback and advice on how to make your marketplace better. Face-to-face meetings are fantastic if you can do it. If you can't, free Google Hangouts. If you can't do that, jump on the phone and get up in the middle of the night if one of your potential suppliers or customers is in a different time zone to you. Work in with their time zone. Huge respect from those that you'll get huge respect from your possible partner or customer, and it makes it easy for them to want to give you feedback. Cross-pollinating. Cross-pollinate the peers. Since a marketplace allows peers to act as both the provider and the participant, the supplier and the customer, cross-pollination means that you're going to need to be a great steward and be able to help keep the communication going on both sides, generating enough value that the experience that they have on your marketplace would be hard to replicate. The first adopters of your marketplace are oftentimes going to help you grow, and they're also going to help make introductions to both sides of the marketplace. They're your evangelists, the early adopter, and also grow slowly to start. The process of creating a community should be slow and deliberate. That way you can refine the details, paying close attention to where people drop off or otherwise lose interest, as well as where people complete transactions and have positive experiences. You know, you're going to have lovers and you're going to have haters, and you want to talk to both of those types of people to get the truth of why people like or dislike your marketplace. Jeffrey Moore, who wrote Crossing the Chasm, talks about the early adopters, the chasm that you need to jump to then become to access the pragmatists or the early majority, which is where most of your market growth happens. That's where that hockey stick growth occurs after the initial technology enthusiasts are involved, the visionaries who are the early adopters, and then that big leap over the chasm to get to the early majority and the pragmatists, which is where you want your marketplace to focus. But growing slowly to start will help you refine. So step 4, produce compelling content. I'm just going to do a quick time check. I know that we started late, but we're halfway there. Got a question come through. Launch in one city versus having the platform open. Example of open platform was Dog vacay, pros and cons. You know, a lot of these, once you start to hear of a marketplace like Dog Vacay, they actually started in a single geo, and they might have been under a different brand, or they may have been in private beta, but usually what they did was they started in one location where there was demand for that service, and then as they refined it and started to put in processes and systems, they scaled out. And the benefit of building on a platform like Near Me is that allows you to do both, to focus on a narrow view, narrow geo, but go global very quickly and easily if needed, as you find demand increasing in different geolocations. But most times the successful marketplaces have started in one place. Airbnb is an example of that. All right. Produce compelling content. This is really important. They say the 4 C's. Content that's credible leads to conversion and a customer. So produce compelling content. Content is the lifeblood of your brand. This is where you tell the story of who you are, what your marketplace is all about, and you're sharing the tidbits, the best practices, and other useful information to keep your customers, your suppliers, and visitors in the loop and coming back for more. So create a blog. That's one of the easiest and best ways to keep that conversation going and keep content that's valid and credible up on your marketplace site. Credible content is still king. It's going to give you great search engine optimization, and a blog is easy to use as well. If you know how to use Microsoft Word or Google Docs, you can write a blog. The first thing you need to do is create a blog that's going to be attached to your marketplace. And establishing a blog will help you improve your search engine rankings, as I mentioned, and it's going to become a more engaging place for your visitors and users over time and give you long-tail search engine marketing benefits. It's just a proven thing. And be fun and have some personality. The blog, much like your brand, should have a personality. It's not a corporate white paper written by an anonymous ghostwriter. It's written by the person who wrote it, and you want to include some of the informality and personality in the text that's being written to engage the reader. So consider what your values are and how you want your users to receive your marketplace, and then build that into how your blog is written. If you hire professional writers, they will ask you what you want the tone to be, so be ready to have an answer. So examples of tone could be that it's witty. You want to have a witty tone to your blog. Educational. It could be upbeat or very professional, informative or conservative. It's going to depend on the majority of participants in your marketplace and what they are looking for. Offer microblogging as well. A microblogging feature inside your marketplace will allow every single one of your suppliers and marketplace participants to also write their own blog, so that as people are putting their listing up, if they can blog about it, or maybe you've got a fashion marketplace where people can share or swap or sell their secondhand wedding clothing, and they blog about their wedding, or they blog about the dress that they made, or whatever it is, that provides great content, and people like to tell their own stories. It's great for SEO on your marketplace, and then what you're able to do is also use that microblog content, choose some of the best stuff, and apply that to your main marketplace blog. So those who are in the community of practice in which your marketplace is focused, that's where your initial marketplace focus should be. They're full of experts and passionate participants with lots of storytelling to share about their experience and expertise. So leverage that. And produce content regularly. Creating a blog is only the first step. Then you have to produce the content, and that's why microblogging is so important, because you can have your marketplace participants involved in that. Now, there's some types of content that people respond well to, and others that they don't respond well to. So often people respond well to things like the 9 ways to do X, Y, and Z, or the 8 best practices to build your successful peer-to-peer marketplace, how-to guides, educational posts, best practice, company and teammate updates. interactive videos, having a guest writer of renown or controversy within your marketplace or your community of practice or your vertical market. Have somebody who's a great writer and respected do a guest post. Also case studies, leveraging case studies can be used to leverage some of the microbloggers that are on your marketplace as a great example for engagement, and also to minimize the amount of content that you have to write. Always keep up the quality of your content. I said before, content that's credible leads to conversion and a customer or a call to action. So keep the quality high. Regularly producing content doesn't mean you should should ever release subpar content. So if it's not good quality, then hold off. With the way that Google algorithms currently work, well-written, deeply researched content that's linked from other high-quality sources is what's going to help rise you to the top of search engine results. So make sure that you produce a combination of both long-form articles with unique content, case studies, how-to guides, in addition to regular updates and shorter-form posts. And all the content must be credible and relevant to your audience. Get your suppliers and participants involved in producing content. Since they're the ones that are actually getting out there and transacting, they're a gold mine of content ideas. Ask your suppliers to tell this story, or ask your users to tell about a successful experience they had on your marketplace. And if they don't want to write the story themselves, interview them, take a photo, and put that content up on your blog, and you can stimulate more experiences for them. Podcasts are another great way of getting engagement too. So audio, an audio story. And share your blog with your subscribers. As soon as you create your marketplace blog, make it as easy as possible for people to join your list and get your updates as they happen. Also, a small but important detail, make sure that all of your marketplace users are part of your blog updates email list. So that's an important thing to make sure you do. That way, as you send out an alert to say, hey, new blog post is up, it'll reach out to everybody that's already registered on your marketplace, a little thing that already exists in the Near Me platform. Step 5, acquiring new users creatively. Now, since acquiring new users is often cost prohibitively expensive, it is expensive, the best way to find new users is to get creative with social media and PR. Also attending and participating and volunteering in conferences and events, as well as incentivizing good behavior and referrals from your existing users. Being authentic and transparent is really important, so be upfront with everybody on your agenda when you're talking to people about your motivation behind being involved in a user acquisition tactic. In other words, don't be sneaky. If you're going to an event because you're looking for new users and people are talking to you about it, just be upfront. Hey, I'm here because I want people to come and use my marketplace. But before I tell you about it, tell me about you, and engage with people truthfully and transparently, but always give value back in the conversation. The reason why you want to be transparent is that if they find out later that you're there and you volunteered to do some work because you were there to steal users, that's not going to bode well for your credibility. So be authentic and make sure that you get invited back. Your industry vertical may well have some established codes of conduct, rules, and unless your marketplace is designed to upend that, and by that I mean maybe there is an industry vertical that you're attacking with your marketplace because there's an incumbent that is just not being innovative, and so you're going to upend it, then being transparent with your intentions will ensure you will be invited back or even invited into the inner sanctum. So, use social channels. Use Facebook and Twitter to your advantage as soon as you start your marketplace. Set up a Facebook page and a Twitter profile. There are great, these are great mediums that you should be tapping into. You can do amazing things with outreach to potential customers using these social networks. And definitely also use Google+. Some of you might be laughing, but we mean it, because the Google+ profile will have a positive impact with Google search results. And the link for Google+ is right here. So jump on. If you don't already have your business listed in Google+, your marketplace, then go ahead and do it. So let me put this. Oh, we'll put that link out in. That's actually in the white paper anyway. So we're good there. Google+, do it. Twitter, follow people who mention or have conversations about your market. That way, you'll essentially ping people. They're the virtual version of lightly tapping people, someone on the shoulder, who are already interested in what you have to offer. So also follow all the people that are the thought leaders in your niche. So the people that you follow within your niche market, follow the people they follow, especially the thought leaders. Also find relevant lists and follow them as well, because when you do, they'll have an opportunity to find out about what you have to offer, and they'll follow you back. And then start interacting with people. Message them directly, respond to their questions, their articles, their photo shares. Create a relationship with people as well as a voice for your marketplace by creating and being part of the conversation. And be sure to respond to anyone and everyone who mentions you. You can do this by responding directly or just by favoriting their tweet to let them know you received the message. And don't spam. Self-promotion is not what we're saying to do here. Have a natural conversation, especially where you can offer value in the responses you give, even if it's just a funny quip that leads to the reader smiling. And be consistent. Now, social media is a hard one, because I know for many of us it's really difficult to keep engaged. It's distracting. Well, there's services that you can use to get around that. We use Zootrock, which is a service that's listed in the white paper. And we also have an absolutely amazing social media manager called Angela, who's just incredible. It's almost like she has 2 phones and 2 laptops running simultaneously. She just lives and breathes that stuff. So it is something that you can outsource, and we'll actually be running a webinar on how to use social media channels effectively in a future webinar series that's coming up in a couple of months. Now, let's move on. Social media. As I said, if you can't keep up with tweeting while building your marketplace, because there's people that you're having lunch with and channel partners you're working with, then as I said, tools like zootrock.com can help to tweet curated and industry-specific content on your behalf. And of course, go where your participants are likely to be. If your community of practice or community of interest isn't even on social media, then you possibly have a first mover advantage and can build a following within your niche before others do. Now, Facebook pages can be a challenging place to create community around your marketplace. But there is one thing that Facebook does very well, and that's Facebook groups, as mentioned previously. With groups, you can get the suppliers you've championed, you can get them together to create a conversation around best practice and allow for an omnidirectional conversation to take place where you typically seed and stimulate the conversation. Now, that's not to say that you should avoid Facebook pages altogether by just using groups, but rather that groups are a valuable way to share information amongst a tight interest group. And think about how you can direct people out of Facebook to other forums like your own website as quickly as possible so that they're not distracted and sucked into the vortex of liking cat photos. Another issue that obviously Facebook throws up at us when we're trying to get people's attention. One thing I always recommend is if you have somebody on your web page already, never send them to a group or away from your website. Keep them on. But it is important to have social media presence with a Facebook page, setting up a group, Google Plus page, Twitter account, etc., to point people back to where you want them on your marketplace. Never push them back to those social media places unless you have a specific and strategic reason for doing so, like creating a viral marketing campaign. Now, I've got a question. What if the marketplace you aspire to create already exists and it's poorly executed, however, has an established user base? Is it tough game to win over those users? Never. Loyalty is all about providing the best customer service and user experience. That's what you're trying to achieve with your marketplace. If you already have a competitor in the market, that is awesome because it's validation that it's a product that's needed. And in the global market, and even just if you look locally, there's always enough room for more than one supplier of a service. So I think it's great that there is already a marketplace. Go off and execute better. Go off and provide better customer service. Go off and give the marketplace participants the better option, and people will switch. So good question. Thanks for asking. Create a launch and PR strategy. Now, this is important, and again, this is something that will be in more detail in a future webinar, because we're going to have our awesome PR and marketing team on that and working with you. Before your company can get notable press, you need to act as your own press agent. So keeping an active social media and blog presence is important to start developing a name for yourself online. And within that approach, position your company as an expert and your leaders within your marketplace as thought leaders. So video, photos, blogs, testimonials, white papers, and case studies are all valuable pieces of content for media outreach. And submit bylines, a byline article written by your CEO to blogs within your industry. Start small, then submit bylines to higher level media. So start with your own industry and industry publications, and then broaden out from there. Stick within your pond and then broaden it a little bit more. Find topics that you can address and begin writing about. Think outside your obvious industry to topics like business, tech, entrepreneurs, marketing, and target specialized niches as well. And network with PR professionals. Attend PR events, mixers, and industry conferences, and ask your connections about media relationships. Get to know the media, but don't expect to be covered by them simply by building a relationship. Always think about how you can connect them to someone or something that they can benefit from. It's always worth your time for them to know who you are for future opportunity, but also connect them with something that's valuable. It might be completely non-connected to the marketplace you want to launch. It's about giving them something that's of value, because that way they'll remember you and favors are returned when you have a story that you need. Check out this website, free publicity. It's Help a Reporter. So you can see here, helpareporter.com. This is a way to assist you. It's to offer journalists topic-specific information as it relates to their needs and your marketplace. So check out this as a way to get in front of some press people. And follow the news. Set up a Google Alerts. So go to Google Alerts. Let's go quickly and do that. Go and search for it, Google Alerts. Go ahead and monitor the web for interesting content. And put in a marketplace, some keywords relating to your marketplace, and use that as a way to follow the news, and they'll send you a digest based on the frequency you need. That'll help you to monitor the media and also monitor Twitter on the hashtags that are relevant to you and keywords. Do that every day or at least once a week to see the latest in your industry. Record which journalists are writing about which topics and comment on their articles. Stay away from being too promotional though, and share these articles with your team. Now, participation in conferences and events. Research conferences and speak at and submit speaking proposals. If you're not accepted, attend the conference and network with similar companies and potential customers. Excuse me. In the same mindset, organize events such as a panel discussion or mixers to lead the conversation and get people connected. Have a look on meetup.com and Eventbrite for existing events, and if they don't exist, think about starting one. And consider some guerrilla marketing tactics where you might be at an industry conference or not. You might hear of an industry an industry conference, but it's just too expensive to attend or sponsor. What you could do is hire some family and friends to wear your company t-shirts and hand out free coffee and donuts on the opposite street to those attending, slipping in a business card and a smile. Low-cost marketing, high impact. Destiny and Me, for example, rented out a short-term empty retail space opposite the San Francisco Convention Center during Salesforce.com conference. It was offering free Wi-Fi for bloggers and journalists, free coffee and desk space to attendees, and promoting this via 20 TaskRabbits that were wearing Destiny Me t-shirts. Now, this cost 1/4 of the sponsorship cost for attending the conference and ending up in a huge brand awareness for Destiny Me, with blog coverage from tech writers and tweets from the exact audience that Destiny Me was appealing to, the traveling technology folk. And incentivize referrals. Once you've got enough suppliers and have some transactions being generated in your marketplace, start thinking about how you can grow your user base by incentivizing current users to invite their friends, families, and colleagues. This is typically done by offering credit for your service for each new user, which is a win-win proposition, and your hopefully happy users will be grateful to get compensated for recommending you, and they may get a new active user at a price you can afford to scale on, rather than using AdWords, which might be very expensive for you. So referral incentives are really important to think about, and that way you can incentivize current users to use your service more often with their newly earned credits, so keep people coming back. Friends using the same, so of course, make sure the incentive is based on a store of value that appeals to your audience. Money or credit may be worth less than a featured place on your blog or case study or friendly lunch catch-up, and make it easy for people to write about what your marketplace does and make it a no-brainer for them to introduce you to others. So do all the legwork for them. And by legwork, when you're talking to a press person or a blogger who you'd like to write a blog about you, write the blog post so that all they have to do is make some edits. If you're wanting an introduction to somebody, then write the introduction email for them, cut and paste, and that way it makes it easy for them to refer. You know, I get a lot of emails, and some people are saying, oh, Adam, can you connect me with such and such? And then I've got to reply and say, well, what about? And they reply, oh, I'd like to see them about such and such. And before you know it, you've got 3 or 4 emails going backwards and forwards to qualify them, because the person you need to introduce them with is a very busy person who you don't want to be cut off of yourself. So when you're doing all the work, it just makes it so much easier for people to want to refer, write about, or pass on a favor, because they don't have to think too much about it. And also reward your most active users and suppliers. Reward those who respond in a timely and consistent manner with more business, and improve placement in search listings by setting up an algorithm to reflect that. Also consider giving your most active users some swag or other useful creative gifts that show your appreciation. You can even write them handwritten thank you cards, because people rarely get snail mail anymore, and it has a high impact. The home stretch. Engaging in communities. So this is a really, really cool one, because there's so many communities already out there online, within forums, within Q&A boards. Use Quora. Quora is awesome. If you don't know Quora, jump on Quora and start looking for questions that people are asking about your business. Great for SEO. So search for, I don't know, dog walking. Dog walkers. What would be a good name for a dog walking business? What is the best way to promote a new dog walking service? Start answering questions. Really, really good for SEO and connects you with lots of people. So connect with the existing communities. As I said, forums, Q&A boards, articles, communities where people who want what you have to offer are hanging out, and then engage in the conversation. Don't blast them with what you have to offer. Answer their question, listen and understand, and then start providing high quality content so that that community feels like you're giving to that community. You're a contributor, and you're credible. And so is your marketplace when they see that. Create trust and reputation loops. All right, last 2 big points. Communication should be built in. There we go. I said it. But let's go back a step, because I should have said create trust and reputation feedback loops is actually what I wanted to talk about, because it's one of the most powerful features in a peer-to-peer marketplace. And it's the the ability to create reputation through reviews as one of the simplest ways to get that happening. It helps peers using your marketplace to understand the experiences that others have had with them before placing their trust in them. But it can be gamed, because people can say, I'll give you a good review, you give me a good review. So what we want to do is look at all of those touch points of trust, and something that Near Me are building out is a peer group analytics around all of those sorts of things, and it using the same type of algorithms that are used for criminology is what we're building up inside Near Me, so that a trust score is truthful and based on time series data and a transaction or communication between two peers and their peer group. It's really quite cool when we go into the science of it, and we'll be doing a webinar on that at a later date. Users need to be able to message one another and have two-way conversations. This is a way of building trust and reputation loops between the supplier and the person looking for the supply and the demand side, because there's often a fear that transparent communication will lead to sales that happen outside of your marketplace. That's always a concern, and people will game it. If they want to game it, they will. So always provide communication inside your marketplace, but provide so much value that there is no reason for them to transact outside of the marketplace. And so it's very important that they are able to communicate within the marketplace. And sure, you might want to block out their email and phone number stuff and make it a little more difficult, but honestly, if your marketplace offers enough value and isn't quote-unquote ripping off the community, then you're going to have no problems in making sure that people use your platform. And it's going to be quick to identify too. If there's lots of communication going on between people because you provide that functionality, but no transactions going on, then that might highlight those that really are just taking advantage of the marketplace and not giving back. Encouraging reviews. Reviews and reputations are central to building a peer-to-peer marketplace, and the peer reviews are what stimulates a trusted interaction and the ability for a stranger to come along and do business with another stranger. And once a transaction is complete, make sure that your marketplace is set up to send out automated reminders to both parties, urging them to review one another. Now, when you're within a niche market, an industry vertical, a community of practice, trust is generally implied within that community. And the whole rating service may not be as important, but it is still important, because within that community of practice, you still want to be able to identify who are the most reliable. And most participants within a marketplace that are focused on the needs of fellow peers, those that are part of that community of practice, don't want to create an untrustworthy persona if it's going to affect their core skill set and livelihood. Now, something else that we're looking at is peer group vouching. And peer group analytics can be applied to ensure that those that are interacting are part of an overall trustworthy group. We all belong within these interconnected peer groups. We have about 5 people within any one peer group. It could be our sporting peers, our work peers, our friends from school peers, our weekend event church peers. It could be any number of different peer groups that we're involved with, and they usually have around 5 people that we have constant and regular contact with. So, excuse me. So identifying those peer groups to define an overall trustworthiness score is something that we're developing and have algorithms on, but it's something to think about. How does your peer group vouch for each other? And that could include the input from reviews and ratings, and that can help weed out the anomalies and remove those who are not really trustworthy, and you don't want those on your marketplace anyway. Now, would the participants in your marketplace vouch for one another? Exclusivity within your marketplace may be the secret between success and failure. And what I mean by that is that your marketplace may be an exclusive marketplace. You may have 10 competitors doing exactly the same thing, and you say, you know what, we're going to offer a higher priced marketplace service, and it's exclusive, and we vet everybody, and everybody vets each other, and we make sure that we operate a marketplace that has quality transactions all the time. So creating exclusivity and a vouching service where I vouch for you, you vouch for me, and it happens over time as well. So maybe I unvouch for you if I have a bad experience, but it's cumulative over time because peer groups are dynamic and they change constantly, and that needs to be taken into account when we're scoring people's trust. Now, I'm conscious of the time. I know we started late. We are going to wrap it up now with the last steps coming up. Oh, there was also something I wanted to note on the last one, was that there's a good article on trust from Philip Lay, who's actually on our advisory board at Near Me, and he recently wrote about the evolution of trust in the sharing economy, driving the growth of Airbnb, BlaBlaCar, Lyft, and others. So a great article. That will be in the white paper as well, a link, and that's something to look out for. A question came through, won't it be risky if I allowed peers to communicate on site? Sometimes it's risky not to. Often case people want to communicate because they need to establish trust with that person. Now, as I said before, if you're offering great value in your marketplace, then allowing a trustworthy communication to take place before they rent or buy the goods or services is a good thing. Now, yes, people might go off-site and do the transaction there, but if they're going to do it, they're probably going to do it anyway. So, yes, losing the commission is a possibility, but what if you didn't take commission for a while? What if you didn't monetize your marketplace at all for some time? Maybe you don't take the commission and you say, hey, this is just, we're wanting to matchmake people. And you learn and you grow and you add functionality and a user experience that is just second to none. And then you say, hey, we're going to, and you build up lots of transactions going through. Then you say, well, we're changing the terms of use. We're now charging a incremental commission on transactions. The volume's already there. And those that are going to leave, but the majority stay. So that's a way that you could approach it. But you can also obfuscate phone numbers and emails in that communication process, but we'd certainly encourage it to happen. So 7, making transacting convenient. The less friction there is in a transaction, the better your marketplace will perform. So in other words, keep the number of clicks between a user, sign up, and transaction down to the fewest as possible. Every part of the user experience must be high quality and measured for benchmarking and further improvement. This includes offline transactions that occur if your marketplace requires logistical support and human contact in real life. So, great user experience all the way through, even when it comes to offline, and that means getting on the phone in some cases. Another thing you might want to do is consider a subscription model versus a commission model. So instead of taking a transaction of every instead of taking commission on every transaction, then consider a subscription model that people would be more inclined to pay for. If you have a low transaction volume but requires a lot of interaction with the marketplace, why not bundle up the service in a monthly package where users can subscribe at a set rate? So they get all the communication going on, they get all that communication functionality, they are liking the platform, they know that the transactions that go through are all theirs, but they're happy to pay on a subscription basis. Because people are familiar with paying for a gym membership, why not extend that to your cleaning service or car sharing or skill trading or babysitting marketplace? Maybe it's subscription with a smaller transaction fee. That's a hybrid. Not only do your customers have a clear idea of your value proposition, but they'll also have reliable monthly recurring revenue themselves. So think about that. And offer convenient payment options. Give your customers enough payment options that there is a convenient option for them. Now, there's a number of ways that can be done. It could be based on a payment gateways. Near Me has over 60 payment gateways globally to tap into. It might be via a check, cash on delivery, and you're asking yourself, how do I get a commission if somebody's paying by cash or a check off the platform? Again, consider a smaller subscription fee or just not worrying about it. let the transaction go through, don't take a commission, build up the supply and demand, build up traction within your marketplace, and then offer so much value that people won't mind paying for it later. Free, I've already mentioned it. Maybe you're charging for free. So before you're beginning charging for free, offering for free, not taking commission. So before you monetize, whether by taking a clip of the transaction or service fee or charging a subscription for access, consider a free model. And then think about other marketplaces that you might be competing with that are price gouging. You know, there's marketplaces out there that are in particular verticals that are gouging the price on the supply and demand side. They're the ones that are ripe for disruption. So find out the win-win business model that makes the most sense. Starting for free might help get initial faster traction, but also be mindful not to devalue your marketplace when you're starting with a subscription or transaction fee model where that is acceptable from the start, because it's just, well, it's high value and people see it. Okay, question came through, how is free option feasible when we have to pay the payment gateway providers and servers and others? Well, there's two ways to look at that. It could be that it's the cost of goods initially, it's a marketing expense because you would have to acquire those users anyway, and marketing costs money, so you could just wear it as a marketing cost. And also payment gateways, generally that's going to be passed through to the supply and demand side. So the buyer and the seller are going to have that cost embedded on their side. So that transaction fee would be passed through and is usually acceptable. But it's when people start saying, I'm going to take 40% or 50% of the transaction that the heads start being scratched. And yes, you will have server costs and other things, or that could be part of a subscription that you might take advantage of with Near Me. Again, you amortize that over the time that you are going to expend building your marketplace, especially if you're utilizing a service like Near Me where the development overhead costs are much lower than, say, getting custom development done. So, last couple of, be mobile friendly. Make sure that whatever marketplace you build is mobile friendly. More and more people transacting via mobile, and that's a real important aspect. We have built our platform to be completely responsive design friendly from the ground up. Lastly, step 8, adding value beyond the transaction. Your marketplace needs to have stickiness to make people want to complete their transaction through your platform versus outside of it. So when you're taking a percentage of the transaction as part of your business model, you have to provide value above and beyond creating a matchmaking service and offering a payment mechanism. There are several other ways that you can think about offering value beyond the transaction. Insurance. If your product or service requires insurance, consider talking to some insurance underwriters to bundle that in so that people know that actually when I am paying for this service, I'm getting an insurance as a part of that. Maybe third-party logistics is also a part of that process. It could be that the delivery costs that you're offering are consistent, reliable, and a way that you can offer value beyond just the matchmaking service. Questions come through. Is it okay to have a sponsor advertising on the site? That's entirely up to your business model, Miguel. I think if it's, again, high quality content that's on the site that doesn't distract or take away from the main purpose of the site, or it's relevant where you know that you're going to have a high click-through rate, you just don't want to be sending people off to an advertiser click-through where it takes away from the purpose of the marketplace. So logistics support is another way that you can add value. Also compete on customer service. There's a reason that some big box stores have no questions asked return policies and a way of compensating their customers for negative experiences. Word spreads fast. So if your users are feeling safe transacting through your marketplace, they believe that you won't turn your back on them, they're also going to be loyal. And the way you communicate with all of your users should be in a positive way. When people trust your marketplace to protect them, Doing business outside of your marketplace will become more of a risk, and often these are the users that you're better off without anyway. And offering community. One thing that you can do to stay competitive is to generate a personality in your marketplace that's contagious. If you create an environment where people want to help each other and there's a sense of belonging in the network, then doing transactions outside the platform will feel foreign to your customers and especially to your suppliers who need you to continue sending them business. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, suppliers can also white label as a franchisee inside your marketplace and be marketing their little slice of your marketplace under their own branding, bringing in both customers and obviously they have the supply taken care of, but another way of bringing in revenue beyond the standard transaction. Also providing a unique product or service. Peer-to-peer marketplaces are still so new that there's many industries, assets, services, products and niches that haven't been disrupted by them yet. This means that if you have a unique idea or geography that doesn't have access to what you're offering, there isn't really another option for people to find what you have to offer. So you could be the one-stop shop in some cases. So disrupt an incumbent industry. The very nature of peer-to-peer marketplaces flips traditional e-commerce on its head. What has been the one-to-many selling has now become many-to-many, where the buyers are also becoming the sellers, and the users of the service might also be the provider of the service. And that's what we're seeing with even traditional businesses who are looking at e-commerce and thinking about using a platform like NearMe instead of Shopify, because they can quickly turn on a peer-to-peer e-commerce experience, whereas the traditional e-commerce platforms haven't been built with that model in mind. So if you're following the 8 steps and best practice in this guide, hopefully you've learned about narrowing the focus, building up the supply, creating a community, producing compelling content, acquiring new customers creatively, create trust and reputation loops, making transacting convenient, and adding value beyond the transaction. We will be sending out the white paper. Apologies again for the false start that we had and the change there. We will be running this again in a much more streamlined way. So if you want to visit back, we'll have a new date listed with a second run at this webinar, along with how to be effective with social media marketing and press. And also talking about trust and peer group trust in particular are future webinars that will be running. So hopefully you'll also want to click through and check out NearMe. I'm going to open up to Q&A now. I know this has gone right on the just after the hour. Again, we had that false start, so that's one of the reasons why, but I would like to just open up for questions at this point. Here's a little snapshot of some of our team, and it's an awesome team at NearMe. We've got a lot of collaboration going on to produce this content, the webinars. There's a whole cast behind the scenes doing a lot of great work, so a big shout out to all the people that I work with over at NearMe. Thanks for all the effort. Let's open up to that question and answer time now, and we'll go through the panel and see what we can do in answering those questions. Thanks everybody again for coming along. Good morning, good evening, good night, whatever time it is in your part of the world. I'm just going to stop recording.